Hello and welcome to week 8 of the Brit Iron Fantasy Show. I'm your host James, and today, as ever, I'm joined by my good friends Matt and Sam. And we've got a bit of a shake-up to the format today. We're going to kick things off with the My Guy this week. Then we're going to roll straight into the start sit and finish off with a little bit of a Listener League update and a little run through of how our lineup is looking.
Everything is backwards. I'm so excited for it. Let's go.
But before we jump into that, just want to give a quick shout out to the UKTouchdown.com. It's a great source for signed NFL and some college memorabilia in the UK, all 100% legit. And this weekend, there is a 10% sale on the entire site on every
Surely
single
not
piece of
everything.
merchandise. Everything, Sam.
Everything.
Everything is 10%
There's no
off.
way they're making money on that, is there?
Well, you should check it out and find out. See for yourself, mate, because everything
maybe
is
I will.
10% off. You should.
Maybe I will.
And so should the listeners. And that is UKTouchdown.com. Right, let's kick it off with the My Guy section for this week, which I am quite happy to talk about. And why is that, Matt?
Oh, I'm not. I went low-hanging fruit. And we'll get this bit done quickly. Ronald Jones, RB22. I came last. I'm back to 0 points. Moving it swiftly onwards. Let's forget that ever happened. Both of you both went receiver. We had Sam with Cole Beasley, James with Christian Kirk. Cole Beasley, wide receiver 15. You think, oh, that's got to be close. But
That's
Kirk, the wide receiver 12, coming in, getting James the point. He's back to -1. He could potentially be 1 week's football away from not being negative anymore, getting back in the ropes. So let's put the scores currently. Sam sitting consistently at 2. You've stayed there for a while.
Let's go.
I'm on 0. James on -1. How happy are you feeling for that, James? Is that a bit of relief getting that win?
Yeah, I think it's my second win of the season now. So what's that? 7 weeks of football and 2 wins. It's not an awful record, but I think I let myself down early doors this season, so I'm starting to get back into it.
And Sam, comfortably in the lead, but staying pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Just sticking with that
Staying
2 points.
consistent. You know, look, you've just got to ride it out, get those dubs. You know, not get the L's. I'll take the no points every now and then. I'm still at the top of the leaderboard.
So, who is keeping you there, Sam, in week 8? Who is your My Guy?
So, I'm going back. I'm going to dip into the well of a guy who I've used, I believe, in our dynasty in the past. I think I plugged and played him once or twice earlier in the year, maybe last year as well, a bit. And he is a man of gigantic proportions, a human who is designed differently to other humans. He is larger, bigger, faster, stronger, and he plays for the Indianapolis Colts. I'm taking the tight end Mo Alley Cox this week. Now, I think this is a good matchup. I like the Colts this week. I think they will. I don't necessarily like them to win, but I do like them to score some points. And once they get inside the red zone, I think Mo Alley Cox is a guy that's shown this season Rivers likes to target him. So once they get in the red zone, I think he's a big, strong-bodied guy. Make that contested catch. A lot of touchdown upside.
Love that pickup.
Nice.
Love that. Just to rattle off as well, in case it's your first time listening and you're thinking, surely there's going to be tight ends scoring higher. Premise of My Guy, got to be outside the top 12 at their position on the season in half-point PPR scoring. But Mo Alley Cox, I love that pick. I think, like we said, he's just built differently. He is a monster out there in the red zone.
Monster. He
Red
would
zone
dwarf
monster.
me if I stood next to him. I think he's probably 3 times the size of me, just in general, and he scares me a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah, fair play. Right, James. He's thrown me there. James, go. Who is your My Guy? Who's getting you back to that 0? Who's getting you out of the negative points?
Right, so I'm sticking on a similar theme to last week. Of course, picked Christian Kirk going up against the Seahawks. I'm going to pick another receiver also going up the Seahawks in Brandon Ayuk this week.
Ooh.
So he is wide receiver 36 on the year in half-point PPR, so it's maybe a bit more of a long shot. But again, he's playing against Seattle, worst pass defense in the league, averaging about 368 yards against them through the air, which isn't a great stat. You know, they should take advantage of that this week. And they're also allowing 132 receptions to wide receivers, which over 6 games, which averages out to about 22 per game. So the receptions are there, the production is there against the Seahawks, and I think the 49ers can take advantage of that. But in addition to that, for Ayuk, Deebo Samuel is also injured this game, which to me makes it seems like he's going to get some more relevance, some more targets, some more receptions, and he's also coming off the back of his most productive game of the season so far, of which Deebo Samuel missed half that game as well. So there's a little maybe looking forward to the future, if you like. And he's scored at least 12 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games. So again, he's a great receiver. He's looked great this season. He's scoring points quite consistently. And I've said this a few times now this season, and I think my win record when I say it is 100%. This is just the perfect storm.
Interesting.
Another situation where I'm taking advantage of a bad.
I wish I'd dived in and said that before you.
Yeah,
well,
I like that one.
It's my thing now.
James making his points of taking advantage of injuries. Think of that what you will. But no, I
wow,
love that.
You just put words into my mouth.
No, I love that pick of Ayuk. I think that has got a lot of upside for him this week. Now, after my low-hanging fruit last week, and my low-hanging fruit the week before of Cam Newton, you could probably accuse me a little bit of doing it again. It hasn't really worked well for me either week, but this week it's going to work. I'm looking at the Chargers against the Broncos, and I'm looking at one of these quarterbacks in particular, Justin Herbert. But he's the quarterback 15 on the year, played less games than a lot of the people around him on that list. So you think, this is low-hanging fruit. But I'm gambling on the weather in Denver being decent. That it's not going to be them playing in the snow or horrendous conditions. Because I think for Herbert, we don't know how he's going to play in that. He's still early days in the NFL. So it's not locked and loaded. I'm saying it's still low-hanging fruit, but it's not like a lock-up, is what I'm saying.
You know it's low-hanging fruit when you have to try to persuade us as to why it won't.
I'm just saying. I'm just fighting my corner. But anyway.
And you have to rely on the weather.
The positives of this one.
I think there's a chance that Justin Herbert's mum's brother's friend might get sick, which will mentally affect him.
I mean, we've seen better quarterbacks look bad in those weather conditions up there a mile high.
That is true.
That is true. You can't overlook it. But
that is true.
So far on the season, Herbert's looked electric. He is putting up numbers that can be paralleled with Mahomes for the similar number of starts, which that says a lot. I think he's putting the ball, he's pushing it up the field. He's getting those yards, which is what you need out of your fantasy quarterback. But he's also putting the ball right where it needs to be in the end zone, regardless of who's on the end of it. So I think it doesn't worry me if, let's say, mid-game, Keenan Allen's out. He seems to be able to find the guys further down the depth chart. And this Broncos defense looks shaky, so I'm hoping this bit of low-hanging fruit can get me a point. Probably means I'm going to come last, just purely because of karma.
I hope you lose this, Matt.
I really hope. Again, this is similar to last week. I don't care if me or Sam win it. I don't care which one of us does it. I'm rooting for both Mo Alley-Cox and Brandon Ayuk this week.
I'm like the pantomime villain of my guys.
You really are.
I mean, you set yourself up there, mate. You know, it's.
I'll take it. It's a roll.
You've got the face for it, so.
Wow, that feels like a good way to move things on very nicely to the start sit segment of the show. And of course, before we start, we put out a question on a Tuesday. So for those listening, get involved. Go check out our questions on Twitter and Instagram for the start sit. Go send them in before we record. But Matt, over to you.
So jumping in, we're going to throw it first to Sam with a question that came in from George Anders, looking at the running back position.
Okay, so George Anders has got a bit of a query, and he is wondering who he should start this week, boys. So I want you to jump in and let me know. He's got Josh Jacobs, the Raiders playing the Browns. Jacobs, questionable with a knee, limited at practice, will probably play, I'd imagine, at this point. It's not unusual for a running back, especially with a slight need to take some time out. Or Jonathan Taylor, Colts are playing the Lions, fresh off a bye week. Potentially a dodgy Lions defense. Who are you guys starting?
I'm jumping straight in with Jonathan Taylor here. I think as much as Josh Jacobs is a very talented back, I'm not sure about the matchup, whereas the matchup for Taylor, I absolutely love. You said it there, shaky Lions defense. I think the Colts are going to start to realise you can't lean on Rivers entirely. Sometimes he's just going to make a throw and it's like, it just hasn't even gone where I think even he hoped it would, and just silly picks. So I think the way they get to win with that defense they've got is running the ball. So for me, I'm pretty confident going Taylor. I think especially the Jacobs being questionable, which gives me a tiny bit of doubt on him. He said normally you see this often early in the week and then they're fine to play. But if there is any slight injury going on there, that might mean he's playing at 80-85%. I'll take Taylor at 100% comfortably for me. So it's quite an easy one, I think, for me.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as well. Just like to agree with you there on the defenses. I've just checked the stats out here, and Cleveland have allowed 92 rushing yards against in the season, whereas Detroit have allowed 131. So there's much more value there going for Jonathan Taylor, who plays against Detroit.
Yep.
And I think his yards per attempt is better on the season, Jonathan Taylor. It's around 4 in comparison to Josh Jacobs, like 3.4. So for that as well is quite big. And also the passing game as well. He's been more productive, more yards per reception in the passing game as well. So yeah, I think it's an easy one for me as well, Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, completely agree with you, boys. The one thing I would say is you do still have Nyheim Hines in that backfield who will take any targets away from Jonathan Taylor. Maybe if they are in the red zone, maybe a dump-off pass, something like that to Nyheim Hines. Josh Jacobs is the man, so if he is healthy, he will get as much opportunity as they can give him. So there is the route for Josh Jacobs to just have a blow-up week against the Browns if this turns into a shootout. But I think the safe money, and what we're recommending you do, George, is start Jonathan Taylor.
100%. I think a pretty conclusive one to start off there. Apologies now for when Josh Jacobs goes for about 40 fantasy points. James, what you got for us? Whose question have you picked out?
So this comes in from Instagram from an account named Jib Jab Jad. First of all, love the name.
Love that.
Rolls off the tongue. Really nice name.
Does
and that's for me, Jib Jab Jad.
Was that a sly dig, or was that just actually it rolls off the tongue?
That just doesn't really roll off the tongue. It's quite
Jib Jab Jad. I love it.
Right.
Yeah, no questions.
All right, let's get to the question.
Great name.
Anyway,
great name. Let's go.
I've got a defense question here. A defense question. The first time we've done this all season, albeit the second week we've done start sit, granted.
Yeah.
But he comes in and he's asking, would you start the Dolphins defense against the Rams, and it is in Miami, or the Chargers defense against Denver, and that is in Denver?
I think this is quite an easy one from my perspective, at least. But I'm taking the Chargers defense every day against Denver. We've seen since Denver have recovered, they've had some injuries come back. Obviously, you've got Drew Lock off his injury. His 2 games, he's throwing some silly picks. Did it in New England. I mean, he gave New England a chance to win that game with a couple of silly picks when they really shouldn't have happened. I think that the Chargers defense is a good unit. They've got some good pieces in their secondary. They've got a very strong D-line. I think they could get a lot of sacks against an O-line. I mean, that has not been outstanding by any means. And I think Drew Lock probably throws a couple picks as well.
Yeah, I'm completely in agreement there. For me, it's Chargers all the way. All the reasons Sam said there, but also I think the main thing that swings it is me more being a bit negative on the Dolphins in this matchup. I don't really want to take a defense going up against a Sean McVay offense unless I really have to. So if you've got the option of the Chargers there, 100%, I'd say lock that one in and sit comfortably.
Boys, we made it 2 out of 2. So I'm agreeing with you guys as well, taking the Chargers defense for all of the above reasons. I don't think I need to add much more to this. But Matt, can we make it 3 out of 3? What start set have you got for us?
Now I might have one that's going to be a little bit more difficult for us all to agree on. A few more names involved. This one comes in from Ant DeMayo 513 over on Instagram. So he's got 4 receivers for us, wants us to pick 2. He's got Chase Claypool against the Ravens, Marquise Brown against the Steelers, Darius Slayton against the Bucks, Deontay Johnson against the Ravens. Sam,
this is a tricky one.
Who right, you like
so
it here?
I don't want to say it, but I'm taking Slayton out of the equation for this one, just because Giants, Bucks. I can't see the Giants really scoring points in that game. I think this Bucks defense is too good, so let's take him out of the equation. Deontay Johnson, I'm seeing questionable toe. Does he play? I'm actually just going to take Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool out of this scenario, because if that's me, I don't want to be in a position where I'm choosing one of 2 receivers, because you just know if you choose the one receiver, the other one's going to go off, and the one who's on the bench is going to go off, and the one you've started is going to go for a dud. And I don't think that this is kind of a system where you're going to have Claypool and Johnson go off. I think week to week it's going to be one or the other. So I'm going to take Marquise Brown. I think this is an offense that if he can break a couple big plays, he's got a massive, massive ceiling. Probably the biggest ceiling out of these guys for this game, in my opinion.
I like that. But I'm going to have to spin it back to you because it is pick 2. He can't just start one receiver. He needs 2 out of this 4. So who's going alongside Marquise Brown for you? You said you don't want to pick Claypool or
Right,
Johnson.
okay, at which point...
Sorry, mate.
At which point I'm going to take a swing on one of the 2, and I'm going to take Chase Claypool purely because I'm not seeing anything next to him that says potentially questionable.
All right, James.
This is such a headache. I feel so sorry for this guy. This is such a tough decision. I think these guys are all so close together. There's so many downsides, but so many upsides for all of them. I think as well, I'm with Sam, take out Darius Slayton. I think we said it in our week preview episode on Thursday that, this Giants team, they're not really going to score much, maybe a field goal at best, I think, at this point. And just not good. So we can cross him off quite safely. Chase Claypool, is a guy that has had a few weeks where he's looked incredible. But then he did put up a negative scoring week in fantasy last week as well. So there's still question marks around consistency with him. And he is up against the Ravens defense, but so is Deontay Johnson. But I just think with consistency-wise, I'll be starting Johnson if he's healthy. I do agree with you, Sam, that the fact he's questionable should play into a little bit. But if he's ready and is raring to go, I would take Johnson for that one.
I think, to be fair, if Deontay Johnson didn't have that questionable, I would take Deontay Johnson over. So if it got to game time and it was up to 20 minutes before and it was like, yep, Deontay Johnson's good to go, I think I'd take him over Claypool again for all the reasons you just said.
Yeah. And obviously then that leaves Marquise Brown, which I'm still nervous in playing against the Steelers defense. Still question marks around Lamar and what he can do with his arm. But I think he's the wide receiver 1 there. He's clearly the wide receiver 1. So there is a good floor there to rely on. So I'll be rolling with Marquise Brown and Deontay Johnson.
Loving that. Sounds like it's a bit of a 3 for 3 then, because that's exactly where my head's at. Marquise Brown's locked in. Slayton's just out there, not paying attention to him this week. And then it's completely down to whether Deontay Johnson plays. Because if he's playing, he seems to take over a bit of that role from Claypool, just as you guys said. I mean, for this guy's sake, I hope this is a dynasty league he's picking these guys in. That's quite a nice little group to have potentially moving forward for him. But yeah, I think it's a rough one though. Being involved in that Steelers-Ravens matchup so heavily with 2 good defenses there. Yeah. But I think, all on the same page, Marquise Brown and Deontay Johnson, bringing Claypool if Johnson doesn't start. 3 for 3. No arguments, all in agreement.
And we are sorry when Slayton scores 4 touchdowns at the weekend.
This is rare for us all to agree this often in one episode, but I mean, sometimes it happens. Sometimes we are unified. Yeah. And look.
Sometimes the truth will out.
Exactly, and this is the perfect situation for that.
Exactly.
Right, let's finish off with our sleeper listener league. I mean, this week was a tough one for us to take.
Gutting.
What was the reason behind that, Matt?
So, going into the last slate of games, the primetime games, it was looking good for us. Didn't need a lot of points. If the projected came in, we'd win. Move forward. So I think us all waking up, alarms going off. We think, let's check the sleeper league. Let's see how we did. And we lost by 0.06. We finished on 115.7. And Ralph Sisbert on 115.76. So just edging us out by 0.06. It's a gutting loss. So close to taking it. How did that feel for you guys? I guess the same as me. Just kind of almost see it, close sleeper, put the phone back down, like, well, forget that.
I couldn't believe it.
I've lost so much fantasy football this season. It's just ridiculous.
That's what everyone wants to hear. Who's listening? Like, everyone that we've just given start sit advice is going, right, let's do the opposite of what they've said. But I think the main reason for our loss at the end of the day, Odell Beckham Jr. going out with that ACL, putting up a goose egg, and then Kenyon Drake leaving early as well with an injury. It's tough. All we would have needed from them was a receiving yard. Practically, and it would have tipped it over. So, not great. There was some high points. Giovanni Bernard came in for Mixon. Looked good. Put up a better score than, I think, Mixon's average on the season.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens moving forward to this week with those two who's playing. Goff, not bad. I think as far as just from a football perspective, very good performance. Serviceable performance. Fantasy perspective, 15 points. Not great.
As a fantasy quarterback, he's not going to light the world on fire.
Yep.
But I mean, that is, we made the decision to go late quarterback, take a take a gamble effectively on Daniel Jones, which I'll hold my hands up. I thought Daniel Jones was going to be much better for fantasy this year than he has been. Obviously, he has shown flashes that he's got like the rushing capability, but he turns the ball over way too much. Yeah, exactly.
Up to 80 yards, and then he just hasn't got the tank.
But Jared Goff is a guy who you can rely on not losing you weeks.
Yeah, essentially. I think I agree with that. But James
Apart
Robinson,
from this week where he lost us a week.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
A rare occasion.
James Robinson, 29.7 points. Big performance from him. It's exactly what we want to see. Hopefully he can keep that running throughout the year. He started hot, went a little bit quieter. Still serviceable in fantasy, a little bit quiet, but this is the kind of performance we want to be seeing.
Yeah.
Christian Kirk as well. We alluded to it earlier with James getting the My Guy win. 18 points, 2 touchdowns. Happy to see that. Let's hope that continues. And he's just got big touchdown upside. How good was that to see, James? He was your pick for us going into the week. He was your My Guy. You put a lot of faith in him. Paid off.
I knew it was coming. Perfect storm, like I say. It was the perfect storm.
Don't you just love the fact that he was still only the 12th wide receiver on the week, 2 touchdowns?
Yeah.
That is how like mental the NFL is at the moment for fantasy receivers. Like
5 of 8, 37 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just red zone. Big red zone guy. That's all we need from him. Hayden Hurst, 6 of 7 for 68 yards, 9.8 points. Perfect. That's all we need. If he gets a touchdown,
did he drop a late
lovely.
touchdown? Did he drop a late touchdown as well?
It was a drop. Don't remember if it was end zone.
Yeah,
but who knows?
remember.
Could have been even more then. It could have been even better for us. I think starting to feel a bit more comfortable with that again. We went through that early phase of Schultz or Hurst. We made the right call, sticking with Hurst there, seeing what's going on in that Cowboys offense. Kenyon Drake, we alluded to earlier, went out injured. Oh, him and Edmonds is going to become a very interesting thing there. Edmonds has a real shot at putting himself in a great spot to earn a lot more work in that offense, which is a bit nervous for us as Drake owners, but luckily we got depth at running back. Moving it on, Montgomery, 9.4. That's just a standard Montgomery performance. Around 10 points, what you can expect. Gano, 3 points. We'll leave it at that. Not ideal. Would have wanted more. Bucks defense, 7 points. Again, probably would have wanted a bit more. Maybe expected a little bit more out of them. With
Still,
the way
7 points a week
still,
from a defense is actually quite good. So you can't complain too much.
Exactly. Isn't where we lost the week for sure. So coming off the back of that, another loss. We've made a few moves. We had quite a lot of bye weeks this week coming up, so we've had to really juggle things about, especially at receiver, with Odell now being on IR. First move we made, Gano has been dropped, getting him out of there, bringing in Blankenship. Sam, you were big on him. You mentioned him back in the draft, I remember.
I did say I think we should have drafted him, and James pushed for whoever our initial kicker was, who in fairness was not a bad shout. I mean, I still think we got a couple of weeks.
Was it Elliott?
Jake Elliott.
Jake Elliott. Yeah, we still got 1 or 2 weeks of some production out of him. But I mean, Blankenship's been, I think, going into their bye, he was the leading scorer in the NFL. He's probably not going to hit any major, massive 65-yarders, but he doesn't miss much, and he's quite a solid guy. So I like Blankenship going forward for the rest of the season. And they've just got their bye, so we can probably keep him in now for the rest of the year.
Yep, locked and loaded at the kicker position, I think, for us from now on. The next move, we have dropped Joshua Kelly. Been disappointing since Eckler was out. It's just felt like he's taken up a spot. We're never really going to put him in.
It's a shame because he showed so well at the start of the year. The first 2 or 3 games, he looked like he could really move in. And then Eckler goes down. You think, wow, this is amazing. Now we've seen someone who's got the ability, and now he's going to get the opportunity. And then he's just been a bit meh.
Very meh. Very meh.
Very meh. I think if this was Dynasty, this is someone we're stashing. Obviously, with this being a redraft league, going to move on. Just kind of forget that. Unless, who knows, when Eckler comes back, maybe that frees him up and he looks a bit better again when he's not having to be the main guy. Maybe that's just currently better role. We'll have to wait and see.
Oh,
but
yes.
For that one, we are picking up Leonard Fournette in his place. I'm a big fan of this. I think this Bucks backfield is one where you're going to see Rojo getting the early carries, but you know what, Arian, just like one mistake and he will pull you straight out of the game. Like this weekend, Rojo drops the catch, Fournette gets in. Even if there's no mistakes from Rojo, you're going to see Fournette coming at the end of the games. I think we have a lot of good game scripts. So like that was I think the group decision behind that was just we're hoping to get that upside of Fournette, and I think this becomes quite a 50-50 role. I think as much as Rojo's look good, you can't deny the talent of Fournette.
Yeah. The issue, the one issue I foresee here is that as long as Rojo doesn't make if Rojo is good in between the 20s, then I think the first carry in the red zone or that first kind of goal line carry will be awarded to him as a yes, well done, here's your chance at a touchdown. But then if he doesn't produce then on the second down and the second crack at the end zone, that's when Fournette will come in and will power into the end zone. And especially against the Giants, where they could put up a lot of points, I think Fournette's probably a relatively safe bet to at least get the opportunity to score a touchdown.
Yeah, I think especially as well, positive game script, maybe the fourth quarter, Fournette just rumbling, did it earlier in the year. But also starting to get a bit of that passing work where Rojo doesn't look as capable or reliable. Brady's not going to mess around with that for too much longer if there's a few more drops. I think that's where you're going to see Fournette start to take over from McCoy, because McCoy's pretty one-dimensional, and Fournette can obviously get rumbling. Yeah. So that's the move we made there. Obviously, Odell Beckham Jr. moved him onto IR, freed up a spot. We went with Greg Ward for this one. It was a toss-up between him and Scotty Miller. I was outvoted 2-1, but I think I'm happy with Greg Ward as well. You're looking for touchdown upside on either. I know, Sam, you were big. What are you hoping for from Greg Ward?
Well, really, the thing that swayed it for me between Greg Ward and Scotty Miller, because I think they've both got very favourable matchups this week. The thing for me is really just the amount of time that these guys spend on the field. We were discussing it kind of off camera earlier, and we were talking about how Scotty Miller, he's on the better team, but he's got so much in front of him that he's not really ever seeing any more than, I think, his 69% of snaps is the most he's seen this season, whereas Greg Ward is seeing 70 to 90% every week for the last 5 weeks. So I'm thinking that just having the guy on the field more, he's getting targets from Carson Wentz, and ultimately they're playing the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bad defense.
It's becoming that, isn't it, in fantasy? Like, playing the Cowboys, Jets or Giants, put them in.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Seahawks.
Ooh, yeah. James' secret little upside against the Seahawks one.
Those Seahawks cornerbacks, James hates them.
They're no good. I could do a better job myself.
And the last move we've made here on the week is one that I know you're a bit of a fan of, the name we had here on the available list at wide receiver, James. We dropped Devonta Freeman. Sam's little experiment he kind of led with us earlier this season that we, to be fair, at the time was on board with. It ain't panned out. Devonta Freeman.
We got one good week, I think.
Yeah,
I think we've got one good week.
Yeah.
A few average weeks. Now he's questionable. Maybe dealing with an injury, especially in this week's matchup where he's not going in.
Time to move on.
If you're listening and it's a choice you're making and Freeman's anywhere you're debating for a flex, don't. I don't think for this week.
It's risky.
But we are picking up Corey Davis as a wide receiver, obviously, of the Titans. I think it's just some upside. When he's been out there, when he's been healthy, he's looked good, he's looked reliable. Tannehill seems to look him down. Obviously, A.J. Brown coming back in does put a little limit on that. But I think it's some upside here for us, isn't there, boys?
Yeah, I think as well, the snap count as well really benefits Corey Davies. Whenever he's in, he's getting around 90%. In comparison to Adam Humphries, who's only getting around the 55% mark at best. And that's even when Corey Davis has been out as well. So consistently at 55% compared to around 90%, I think Corey Davis for me just it settles it there.
Yeah, 100%. So now moving into our lineup, we've gone through earlier. There was some debates. It was a difficult one. It always is when you've got bye weeks coming up and you're trying to find that plug-and-play option. But obviously Jared Goff, he's locked in as our starter. We're going to keep it rolling with him. Nothing much to talk about there. Bernard currently in. Mixon's still questionable. Hasn't practiced as of recording. Waiting to see what happens. Obviously, if Mixon's good to go, we're putting Mixon in. If not, keep with Bernard. Hope we see a repeat of what we saw last week. Although against the Titans, it's a tough one. Tough matchup. Yeah. See what happens there. Then also at the other running back spot, we've got Lev Bell. Hoping there's some upside. You're thinking maybe a blowout against the Jets. Against his old team. Bit of a revenge game. I think, Sam, you were quite confident in this one. Any particular interest on this one? Any feelings towards it? What we're hoping for?
I think this could be a massive blowout game. And even if it's not going to be a game that they... I don't think this game is never going to be in question. Do you know what I mean? The Chiefs are going to come out and they're going to control the game. So I don't think they're necessarily going to feel the need to hold Lev Bell back, or this is a great opportunity for them to see what they've got in Lev Bell. So they don't need to give Edwards-Helaire all these carries. They don't, because they're not going to be worrying about winning the game. That's going to happen. It's a great opportunity for them to give him some opportunities so they can see what he's got. Couple goal line carries, bad team. I can see a score, and like I said, seeing what he's got, which should translate to some fancy value, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what all Lev Bell owners can look for, especially if, like us, you're dealing with some bye weeks this week. It's a good week to plug him in and then see what you've got as well, just as the Chiefs are going to be doing. So Bernard and Bell locked in as our running backs. Mainly there because our flex options edge playing before any of our other running backs. So between our 4 running backs we're going to name here to give a little spoiler for later on, there's no real preference in order, just purely on the time they're playing, gives us more flexibility in case there's a late guy sitting out. Moving through to wide receiver, it's all changed this week. Everyone's on bye at receiver or injured. It's all just, we've had to find some options. We've talked about them earlier. Davis and Ward coming in as our receivers. I think we're just looking touchdown upside mainly here, hoping they can just put up enough to keep us in the matchup. I think I'm confident in Davis. Ward hopefully gets in the end zone.
Yeah.
Keep it moving
Davis
through.
could be a great play this week, I think. Just thinking about it, like Dunlop just been traded, so they're not, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to really struggle to put the pressure onto Tannehill. So Tannehill, when he's passing, I think might have quite a bit of time to pass, which gives Corey Davis time to get downfield, find himself open, and could be a great play.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping he is a great play, as with this whole lineup.
Oh, God.
So now, James's guy, Hayden Hurst, against the Panthers, as we're recording this on Thursday night. It's happening later. We'll know by the time this goes out. He's our tight end for the season. Hopefully he keeps rumbling, keeps looking good. Matt Ryan, prime time. I hope you're throwing some absolute dimes to him in the end zone. We can hope. Moving through to our flex spots, going running back, David Montgomery. The Mr. Consistent around 10 points unless he gets in the end zone. Unless he gets hurt, I think we're just leaving him there, pretty much. Yeah. He's always going to be in as a flex for us. And then, we spoke about it earlier, Leonard Fournette that we have picked up. Straight in as a flex option. We've said why. Great matchup. Could be a great game script. We'll keep it moving through. Blankenship, locked in as our kicker, hopefully, for the rest of the season. And then the Bucs defense, which I think could be a very fruitful start against this Giants team. We don't know, this matchup could get moved around as well. This may be something we have to react to if that gets pushed too far. Hopefully, worst case, it just goes to a Tuesday. But I think it's some of the positive tester rooms are it's to do with the Giants O-line. We don't know if it starts. We don't know who yet. If it is that, this defense is going to have a field day even more so. So I think if you've got the Bucs defense or they're somehow available, just put them in. Lock them in.
Well, it's not unusual for the Giants O-line to cause problems for the Giants, so...
Hit the nail on the head there.
But yeah, so that is our full lineup for this week that we're rolling with, hoping to get us on to 3 and 5 and keep us in that playoff hunt. Just a few wins off of it. It's going to be the top 6 in our league, but we're not out. We're not out for the count just yet, but we do need to get on a run, and it needs to, I think, start this week. Now we're hitting that halfway point.
Yeah, very well said there, very well said. But this could be a tough matchup because of the bye weeks and stuff like that. I think one of the harder ones of the season so far, if not the hardest thus far. So just hope that these players can come in and perform for us that we picked up off the waivers and whatnot. But fingers crossed for the boys that we can get it done, go 3 and 5 on the season and start that push through to the playoffs.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. This is the week. It's happening now. But unless you boys have any further points to raise, that is all we've got time for today. So as ever, be sure to head over to YouTube, go like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe and also turn on the notification bell because it lets you know when we posted, which is really good. So you won't miss a single moment from the Brit Iron podcast. And of course, go over to Twitter and Instagram and check us out. We're at the Brit Iron. Go get involved with the conversation, join the community. And on both those platforms, we will be asking for your start-sit questions as well, so you'll be in with a chance to feature in next week's fantasy episode. So make sure you go and submit those questions by Tuesday night, and you'll see if your name pops up next week. Who knows? If it's a good question, you might feature.
Yeah, make sure it's a good question, and then you'll be in.
Hopefully now we've nailed all these start-sits.
Yeah.
100% guaranteed wins when you send us a start-sit.
1,000% guaranteed.
Exactly. And why would you not want to take that? So send in your start sits and we're going to answer them for you. But for now, thank you for listening and we'll see you next time.
See ya.